Alrighty. Welcome everyone to our session, Project Juggling for Instructional Designers, Staying Sane and Delivering Excellence. In today's webinar, we'll be going over some workflows and processes that our instructional design team has implemented to create sustainable practices for all stakeholders. Everyone on this call is probably well aware that instructional designers rarely work on just one project or course build at a time. They are often navigating competing priorities, university initiatives, and external stakeholder collaborations, all while staying on top of emerging technologies and policies such as the DOJ accessibility ruling or AI integration. Today, we'll explore how to manage that high volume of work without sacrificing quality or burning out. You'll hear insights from both the assistant director and an instructional designer point of view, which will hopefully give you a dual perspective on workflow challenges and solutions. But first, we'll start with some introductions. Like Tom said, I'm Cairo Jones. I'm the assistant director here at LEDstudio at VCU. I've been with VCU since about 2018 and started with LEDstudio in 2020.
And I'm Carrie Cole. I've been an instructional designer in one form or another for about 27 years now. Came from a corporate instructional design background and found myself in higher ed, and I love it. I've been at VCU for 4 years now. So we're going to talk about some objectives for our session today. I want to start by saying when Cairo and I proposed to present on this topic, it was January of 2025. The year was new. We were optimistic. And then we had a year that literally steamrolled over us. So if you're going to put yourself out there as knowing something, just know that it's going to be tested. So we are coming to you today humbled and tried by fire. And so we'll be sharing a lot of what we did to survive that year and really thrive under projects getting pulled in, staff shortages and accessibility changes and all the things that happened over the course of the year. So we put our objectives into three basic buckets, balancing all the tools and approaches and the different things that we use to balance the multiple facets of our roles as instructional designers, and then sharing the frameworks that we put into place so that we can make sure nothing falls through the cracks, and then some methods that we've used for prioritizing all those different roles so that we focus on the most important things and keep ourselves sane.
Awesome. Our instructional design team, like you all, wear many hats to support teaching, learning, and innovation across the university. Most of our work can fall into four main categories, but before I dive in, I did want to do a quick chat check. In one word, could you all describe what your role is right now? I saw a few folks pop it in the chat about 2025 being very exciting. Accessibility. I think we're all hearing that this year and last year too. Mind reader. Two for accessibility. Awesome. Awesome. Fixer, I like it. Magician. Awesome. Great answers. I think all of these kind of resonate with myself and probably everyone on this call. I think we've all done a little bit of all of the things you all just listed. Make it pretty. I think I've said that to my team a few times. Just make it pretty. Awesome. Thank you guys. So let's jump into bucket one, course design and accessibility. One of the things I hear the IDs on my team say they enjoy most about the job is the joy they feel in helping faculty bring their ideas to life. They work side by side to plan modules, align assessments, and design courses in Canvas. And whether we're building something new or refreshing an existing course, we're there as partners and collaborators throughout their entire journey. We're also champions for accessibility. We act as liaisons for Section 504 ADA requirements and implement universal design for learning. That means reviewing accessibility reports, suggesting solutions, and ensuring every student has an inclusive learning experience. Bucket two is faculty support and training. A big part of our roles is relationship building, right? So we're coaching and supporting subject matter experts, listening to their goals, and helping them make student-centered design decisions. We also love sharing what we know. We design and deliver workshops, webinars, self-paced micro courses that help instructors build new skills and stay current with educational technologies. The third bucket is committee leadership and service. And I'll ask another question to the chat. Can you drop an emoji in the chat if you serve on at least one committee outside of your core ID work? There we go. You betcha. Looks like we've got a lot of responses and some laughing faces. Awesome. Great to know we're not alone in that. So instructional designers, we often stepped into leadership roles on campus. We're leading departmental committees. We're participating in cross-unit initiatives. We're collaborating with outside units. So for us, we're collaborating a lot with our CPE group to ensure their offerings are running smoothly. And we're bringing the instructional design perspective to important decisions across the university and the surrounding communities we support. Beyond committees, we're also curating and sharing knowledge. We're contributing to departmental blogs, helping implement OER resources, and gather resources for newsletters, making it easy for our colleagues to stay informed. Let's see, bucket four is innovation and thought leadership. The field is constantly evolving, and we're always at the forefront of that change. We help institutional leaders and faculty understand the opportunities and challenges of emerging technologies, for example, like generative AI. We develop guidance and instructional models that integrate AI while thinking about long-term impacts on teaching and learning. And finally, we love learning from and contributing to the broader academic community. We present at conferences, write about experiential learning and interdisciplinary curriculum design, and we share research to help leaders see how learning opportunities drive change. In the chat, can you let us know which of these four areas feels most like your role right now? Or if it's all of them, can you put five? Five. A lot of fives coming in easily. Awesome. It sounds like we're all kind of doing the same thing. So that's kind of good to know we're all in camaraderie together. Five plus five plus five. As you can see, the role of an instructional designer isn't just confined to a single niche. We blend creativity and structure, coaching and collaboration, innovation and scholarship. It's a wonderful mix that allows us to support our colleagues and inspire meaningful learning experiences. Next slide, please, Carrie. Thank you. Let's see. Before our team begins any course development, we lay a foundation of clarity and collaboration. The first step is a memorandum of understanding or MOU. This agreement is signed by the program leadership, the subject matter expert, and LEDstudio. In addition to outlining everyone's responsibilities for the course development, it also includes three key appendices that we've added this past year. One is a detailed weekly timeline for either our 14-week or our 26-week build course developments, so everyone knows exactly when milestones occur and when. The second is our course quality rubric, which sets the standard we expect each course to meet and is used as we review courses at the end of development process. And now the newly added SME roles and responsibilities document that reminds SMEs of their obligations throughout the process, including making their digital content accessible. Once the MOU is in place, we schedule a program level kickoff meeting with all faculty who will be developing courses along with the academic deans and the department chairs. During that session, we review the timeline, we clarify roles and responsibilities, and answer any questions about the development process. This brings everyone together to help build trust, ensures transparency, and real-time visibility across the team, and it sets the stage for a smooth partnership. About 2 weeks before the actual design work begins, I then personally meet with the SME again, this time alongside our project administrator and the instructional design team lead. We walk through the shared Google folder that will house all course materials, confirm administrative details such as payment, and answer any last-minute questions about the process. Investing this time up front ensures that the SME understands how we will work together and helps us manage our workload while maintaining quality and clear communication. Together, these three steps create a structured, people-first process that keeps projects on track, fosters collaboration, and ultimately allows us to juggle multiple course builds without sacrificing quality. Awesome. Next slide, Carrie. Thank you. Before I talk about the tools we use, I do want to do one more chat question. Can you type one word that describes what good project management looks like to you? Order. Awesome. A lot of the same words coming up. I like it. Brainstorming, that's a good one. Detail. An octopus. People feeling really happy and joyful than super stressed. I love that one. I love that one. Collaboration. Awesome. That's actually a great transition because the way we think about project management in our department starts with those same ideas and those same words you guys just shared. Our tools that we designed are here to support clarity, visibility, and trust, not to create more work for our teams. One of the things we learned quickly as our workload grew over the last 2 years is that tools don't necessarily mean better project management. Instead, we focused on being really intentional with a small set of tools and being very clear about how each one is used. Across LEDstudio, we rely on three primary tools: Smartsheets, Google Drive, and Slack. Smartsheets is our source of truth for project management. That's where we track course development timelines, monitor workload, flag courses, and create dashboards that give both leadership and instructional designers visibility into what's happening and what's coming next. I'll walk you through some specific examples of that in just a moment. Google Drive supports the collaborative side of our work. Each course has a shared folder that houses content, templates, and working documents. This allows instructional designers and faculty to collaborate in real time and helps ensure that everyone is working from the same materials. Slack supports our day-to-day communication. It's where we ask quick questions, surface issues early, and stay connected as a team without turning into a meeting or a long email thread that we all hate. Um, what's important here is not just the tools themselves, but how they work together. Smartsheets gives us structure and visibility. Google Drive supports collaboration, and Slack keeps communication moving. This combination helps us stay aligned as a team while still giving instructional designers the space to focus on meaningful design work. With that said, I want to zoom in on our smart sheets and talk a little bit about how we specifically use it for organizing course developments and project planning. So let's see. At the top of our workflow is a Smartsheet course development report by month, which is shown on the screen here. Our project administrator created this report to break every course down by month, in which it will begin giving us a clear roadmap of our upcoming workload. And we have different columns across there. Of course, I couldn't capture them all here, but this gives you a good idea of what instructional designer leadership sees when we're intaking courses. Next slide for me, Carrie. Thank you. And from that report, our project administrator was able to develop dashboards for our leadership team and individual dashboards for each instructional designer. So pictured here is a screenshot of my dashboard. In the dashboard, you'll see we have widgets that show each designer's current course load, special projects, and their role in those assignments. There is also an overview of any courses that IDs have flagged, so I know when to reach out to a faculty member. There's a widget that shows how many media projects we have in the queue and which ones are behind. There are separate sections for university-wide special projects and collaborative projects with CPE. I also have quick links to the tools we use every day and a personal to-do list that I use to organize my own tasks. So I use this dashboard when I'm speaking with leadership higher up or with my team leads to do a bird's eye view of what's going on at that moment within the development processes. And on the next slide, we've got the instructional designer snapshot. So each instructional designer has their own dashboard that breaks down each project they're assigned to. It provides quick links, a widget for their individual media requests, and where they are in the queue, a list of their currently assigned special projects, and a link to schedule a quick meeting with me or their team lead if they need to ask a question. All of these Smartsheet assets are connected through automations so that everyone involved is notified whenever a project status changes. We also hold weekly check-in meetings to discuss program, projects, and course development projects progress. And we ask instructional designers to keep their Smartsheet notes updated throughout the week so that we all stay aligned as a team. This system gives us real-time visibility into our work, supports transparent communication, and allows us to juggle multiple projects with confidence and quality.
Thank you, Cairo. Um, so I feel like, the next 20 minutes or so is like the culmination of my life's work. because when I was a high school senior, I got an award called the I Dare You Award, which I think is the saddest award you could give to anyone. It's given to the student who has the most unused potential. Right. So, but it came with this book, and these are pictures of my own personal like old book collection. Um, so the book was written in 1931 by William Danforth, who founded the Purina Company, like the pet food company. And if you know them, their logo is a like a four square little checker. And so he used that four square motif to explain his time management and productivity philosophy. So fast forward, 1953, President Eisenhower gives us this quote at the top of the screen: "What's important is seldom urgent, and what's urgent is seldom important." He's used that to sum up his method of dealing with all the demands of the presidency. And what he developed came to be known as the Eisenhower matrix. Well, it's basically the same thing that William Danforth did in 1931. And here we are, 1953 or so, and Eisenhower is revamping it. Fast forward again. I was a business major as an undergrad, so I had to take a course where the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People was required reading. And so Stephen Covey, he again proposed this time management matrix with these four squares. And so I say all that to say, like, not only is it the foundational literature, but these same principles seem to get repopularized every 25 or 30 years or so. And the reason that they do is because they're just tried and true. Like, the principles don't change over time. They work across contexts, whether it's in business or government or education or whatever sort of discipline you work in. They hold true. And so Stephen Covey was in 89, and now here we are, we're 30 or so years later. And the people who are working in the same space now are David Allen's Getting Things Done, James Clear's Atomic Habits, Laura Vanderkam's, her best-selling book, 168 Hours, remarkably similar to a book that was written in 1910 called How to Live on 24 Hours a Day. So 100 years and basically nothing has changed in this space. They're all based on those same principles. Okay, so um, Stephen Covey popularized the circle of concern versus the circle of influence. And so the circle of concern are those are all the things that you care about, all the things that can affect your work, but they're not necessarily things that you have control over. They're leadership changes and DOJ rules, and they're the things that impact you, but you can't really have any influence on. And then the circle of influence, those are the things that you actually can have some sort of impact on. They are your day-to-day work. They're the things where you can actually make a difference. So we can't make anyone do anything. We can't make people come to meetings or send us their content, or we can't control any of that, but we can control how we respond to it, how we interact with it, and we can't protect them from the consequences. And so Stephen Covey, and what I would encourage you to do as well, is to make sure you're spending your time in that green circle, your circle of influence. You want your day to be so full of your circle of influence that it crowds out all of the blue that's pressing in on you. So for an ID, these are some examples of what that might look like. So, I can't control when we have staffing shortages, or, when there's shifting priorities at the university. Cairo described the changes in the leadership team that they've implemented. But from the perspective of an instructional designer, it seemed like there was some new initiative every week, some new sheet we had to fill out, or new notification we had to pay attention to. But while those were all good things, they weren't things that I had control or influence over. They were things I needed to incorporate into my day in a proactive way. So this just encourages us to keep that focus on the things where we can make an impact. Okay. Stephen Covey called this the time matrix. it's routinely called the Eisenhower matrix because he seemed to be the first person that put it into this format. And this is really how we prioritize the things that are in our circle of influence. So 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1, this is where people actually tend to spend most of their time, but it's not a place where you want to get stuck, because if you're here, you're putting out fires and you spend your whole day stressed out, you're busy, you're constantly doing stuff, but then you get to the end of the day and you have no idea where the day went or what you actually got done, because you've just been moving from one crisis to the next all day long. And I would say that I'm guilty of spending a lot of days here, which is probably not the best use of my time and talent. So quadrant 2 is where you really want to spend the majority of your time. There are always going to be quadrant 1 things that come up that you have to deal with, but quadrant 2 is those are the things that are really important and really make the biggest difference in our long-term performance and meeting our overall goals, but they don't scream for our attention the way that urgent things do. So when Cairo was putting all the smart sheet platforms in place, that's quadrant 2 work. It really takes setting aside time to do those important planning things that they're not yelling at you the way that emails and other people's procrastination tends to land on our plates. And then quadrant 3, so these are things that are urgent and usually important to other people. So this is when someone else has procrastinated on something and now they're in a crisis and it's suddenly become your problem. So it's not necessarily something that's directly related to your own work, but something that is screaming at you for attention. And then quadrant 4, these are the places that we turn to when we've been stressed out or we're overwhelmed or our energy level has dipped. And so this is where we go to sort of distract ourselves from the things that are overwhelming us. So what does this look like for an instructional designer? Like I said, there's always going to be those things in quadrant 1 that we have to take care of. There's a live course and there's a link that's broken or a document that the share settings aren't right, or so those things are happening that you just have to take care of. And then quadrant 2, though, is where we want to spend our time. This is the time that it takes to learn how to make our content accessible, to learn the new AI tools that are becoming available to us. This is the time where we create templates so that our course builds go smoothly. Researching. So, you're working with a faculty member and they have this idea for their course, and it can take some research and experimentation and practice to get it to a feasible format for them. But all those things take time, and no one is urgently asking us for these things, but they're where we are most productive and most impactful. And then quadrant 4. So we are creative, curious people. Instructional designers typically love to learn new things. And I think that's part of why we end up doing this work. But it's really easy for us to be working on a quadrant 2 problem. We're researching something that's very relevant. And then it's easy to slip into a quadrant 4 rabbit hole. And 2 hours later, we're far removed from where we first started. So I know in my own life, that's a personality sort of like a trait that I have to just be on the lookout for, so I don't end up with too much time in quadrant 4, even though it's fun. So for those of you who do not know what a tickler file is, so it's basically it jogs your memory. So there's all kinds of little things that you need to remember to do that aren't necessarily they're not going to land on your calendar. They're just those little things that you have to remember to do, and you may not even do them very often. So there's all kinds of software out there that will do this for us. So that's what's pictured on the right there. I'm so much of my life is digital. I live in a digital space and stare at screens all day long. So as much as I can, eh, whenever I can, I try to keep things physical and tactile. And so my tickler file is actually very, very old fashioned. It's an index card file box, and it has numbers for each day of the month, 1 through 31, and then a divider for each month of the year. And so there are things that I do occasionally, like, so I have a SME who once a week wants me to email him on Tuesdays, whether I need to or not. He wants me to email him on Tuesdays. So I put him on an index card and I just move him from one Tuesday to the next so I don't ever forget to email him. Or I publish our department's blog every other week. So I have a card that says publish blog. And when I do it on Friday, then I'll move it 2 Fridays out. So I always have that little just memory jog that, oh yeah, I need to go in and press this button or cross this little thing off of my list. And then likewise for things that I'll do like once a quarter or once a year. So I just file it with the month that needs to be done in. And so, like I said, there's lots of digital ways that you can do this. This is my example of my analog way. But that tickler file just keeps stuff from falling through the cracks because we can't keep all of this in our heads. We have to have some sort of triggering mechanism that's like, oh yeah, I did need to do that. All right. So now some practical tips. So again, these are things that you have probably heard before from one source or another, but they're really super important for us to remember. This first one, capture everything in one place. So, and again, whether that's your notes app on your phone, I use a little 5x6 notebook that I can just keep with me all the time. But the important thing is there's one place where everything goes. So every time somebody says, hey, can you do this for me? Every time you have a thought, oh yeah, I need to remember to, all of those little things. And it's important that it's something that you can keep with you all the time. So when you're going to bed at night and you think, oh, I forgot to email, you can write it or add it to your note. And that way you're capturing all of those thoughts in one place. Then you take those thoughts and you put them on your calendar, or you prioritize them in your quadrants, whatever your system is for scheduling your time. But that one place to capture everything, just make sure that none of the little details get lost. Okay, the second tip. If there's something that you can do in less than 5 minutes and it's not going to derail whatever it is you're doing, then just go ahead and do it and get it over with. Like, don't add it to the list if it's something that you can just do right now and not have to add it. So for instance, if Cairo slacks me and says, hey, can you send me that document? Well, I can do that in less than 5 minutes. It's not really going to derail me from whatever else it is I'm working on at the time. And I don't ever have to put it on the list. I can just get it done. Now, if it is one of those things where somebody says, hey, can you answer this question for me? And you feel like maybe this is going to open up a whole longer discussion, then that's probably going to derail you, and you don't want to do that right then. You want to set aside some dedicated time where you can address it fully without derailing the rest of your day. Take your breaks. So nobody blows a whistle or comes by our desk and tells us to go to lunch, right? At least not in our environment. So, and this is going to sound like tried and true and cliched, but we have to take care of ourselves. We're basically plants. Like, we need water and nutrients and sunlight, or we're going to just wilt by 3 o'clock. Like, we'll cease to function at some point, or at least function well at some point during the day. So take your breaks, take them away from your desk. This is, the just do as I say, not as I do sometimes, because I'm notorious for eating at my desk while I read emails or something. But it's just not good for our overall productivity. So get up, walk away, walk around the building, get outside if you can, because in the 30 minutes that you take to do that will save you 30 minutes later in the day in your level of productivity. Okay. Block scheduling. So, if you're not familiar with block scheduling, it's where you actually set aside dedicated time in your calendar to focus on a specific project. I do this particularly if I'm course building. So, if I know I need to knock out a ton of pages in a Canvas course, then I will block that time off on my calendar, turn off my notifications, put a little note like, "Hey, I'm building." We use little icons so that people know what we're up to, um, and 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 don't respond to messages. That is your dedicated time. The important trick here is to keep your appointments with yourself because we are just so prone to want to accommodate other requests. Oh, like a faculty member can't meet when they originally said and they want to reschedule. We are so prone to just take away time from what we've set aside to get our own stuff done, these blocks of time. We're so prone to just, okay, and we interrupt ourselves. So it's super important to, just like you would keep an appointment with anyone else, keep an appointment with yourself and protect that time. And you know how long you can focus before you need to look away. So if maybe your block is 50 minutes long, maybe your block is 2 hours long. It really is going to depend on how long you can concentrate without having to switch gears. Um, and speaking of switching gears, during this block of time that you set aside, don't multitask. We think sometimes that we can multitask and it'll make us more productive. And I can be listening to this webinar recording, in the background while I'm building something over here. And really, our attention is just pulled in two different directions. And we're not getting what we should from the webinar. And we're not being as detailed as we need to be. And we're making silly mistakes that we don't even realize in whatever the work is that we're trying to do. And so set at a time truly to focus on accomplishing that one task that you've laid out for yourself. Okay. And then ask for what you need. So, um, early in 2025, we had some people change positions, and I ended up with like 12 course builds on my plate at one time, plus special projects and other initiatives. And so it's a very humbling place to be in, to go to Cairo in my case and say, you know, I can't do any of this well if I have to do this much of it. And so I just needed some time to focus. If you want me to really do this project well and hit it out of the park, then I need something off of my plate so I have time to do that. So ask for what you need. Sometimes it's time, sometimes it is support, like, oh, I'm not really strong at building this particular interaction. Who on the team can step in and help me build that? Or sometimes it's a tool, like I need a license for this particular thing because a faculty member requested it. Or, we have shared licenses sometimes on our team. So sometimes it can be like, hey, can I use this tool for the next week? And then give it back to whoever normally has it. So don't hesitate to ask for the things that you need. I understand that I am super fortunate and I have the best manager in the world in Cairo, and I'm not even kidding. Cairo runs intervention for us a lot, and tries to keep us from getting in that situation. But if you find yourself in it, let somebody know. Okay, and I've tried to pay a little bit of attention to the chat, but I haven't done a very good job of that. I did see some questions talking or asking about our quality rubric. So Cairo, if you don't mind talking about that for a minute, I think yes, that was everything we had in our slides.
Yeah, sure thing. I kind of went back through and kind of looked at some of the questions, so I'll try to catch all the ones that I saw. Someone asked about our team size, so I did a quick count because I always remember forget who's where because, like Carrie said, things are moving. So there's me, the assistant director. Then we have two team leads, and then we have nine instructional designers, one part-time instructional designer, and we have a digital learning specialist who kind of specializes in the emerging technologies kind of side of the house. We also are fortunate to have a media team and a learning innovations team. They work on doing media production for our faculty members and for our other things, other projects that we're working on. And then we have the Learn Innovation team. They kind of build out interactives like a Jeopardy game and things like that. So we're very fortunate in that aspect that we kind of get to share the load in that because I've heard a lot of IDs are one and the same and they do it all. Another question I saw was about the rubric. So we do a mixture of the OLC and the Quality Matters rubric, and we kind of do a session every other year or so where we take both and kind of make it mesh to the courses that we are working on. And then we've just kind of taken that one and made a non-credit version so we can make sure it applies specifically to non-credit offerings.